What is up, you guys?
How-
Welcome to the Explain It podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Stephen Hunt,
I'm Ingryd Hernandez.
and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. So we are relaunching this podcast.
Yeah, we are.
My previous amazing co-host, Caroline Kane, is on a whirlwind adventure through the United States right now.
How exciting for her.
I know. I'm so excited. I love watching her and Marlon and Linda and like just getting to know so much of like these investor communities and seeing like how they can support each other.
Yeah.
So the reason we're relaunching together, myself and Steven, as you may know, we're actually in business together. We own businesses together, more than one. And so it just made sense. And we have this amazing studio.
It's so cool, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Now, Ingrid and I, because we have multiple businesses together, we actually have a shared office space too. So we lease out an office space where I have a property management business that runs out of here. And then Ingrid and I are able to run our businesses out of here too. So we get to see each other every single day, which is so cool.
Yeah, you're so lucky to have me here.
So lucky. The most lucky person, truly.
So because of that, it seemed like a natural evolution to have us do this podcast together. Of course, I love Caroline, still a really great friend of mine. We want her to do well. Please go watch her and Michael Frankie on Thursdays where they do the podcast where a lot of pre-foreclosures and door knocking and those things are not necessarily what we're focused on.
Yeah.
And so what us being primarily fix and flippers. And as many of you may know, Stephen has a property management company. And a lot of businesses we're trying to stabilize that are not necessarily in that lead generation space, like what Caroline's focusing, for example. Again, it just was a natural evolution. Lots of love everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But
she's living the dream. She's out there traveling. She's doing all the cool things.
Major FOMO.
I have to be stuck in here with you every single day.
Yeah.
Instead of traveling the world.
Yeah. Totally. But if you guys are out there, please let us know where you're joining us from. I see our good friend Andrew, SubTo Drew, out in the universe. Let's go. We're going to go see him.
Andrew? Yeah, in like a week and a half. Like it's coming up real soon. We're going to Houston. We're doing HostCon. My property management partner is going out there with me and Ingrid is joining us now because Ingrid was originally not going to HostCon, but now she is.
Yeah, all my friends are going. I don't want to have FOMO again. We will be staying at an Airbnb out there. So look for more information as we talk about the meetup that will be on the 28th.
Yeah.
That Wednesday night. So it's a free meetup. People will be able to join. Come check us out. We'll talk about our experiences, meet some of your Houston leaders out there like Chai and Prakash and SubTo Drew, who is in the comments. So we would love to meet you since we're from Arizona and we go down where the Cowboys are in
H-Town. Come on.
So anyway, yeah, what are we going to talk about today, Stephen?
Today we are talking about how to get into fix and flipping, which is so exciting because this is right up our alley. This is what we do legitimately for a living for the majority of our active income, both Ingrid and I, and we partner up on every single flip now. We both did flips on our own. We dabbled on doing one together. We call it the dating period, right? And then after both of us having multiple different partners, we kind of came back to each other and said, I love you.
Yeah.
Let's seal this 100%. Deal. Let's start doing deals together. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
And it's really, really nice. And I always recommend everybody have a partner when it comes to fix and flips. Yes, you can do it by yourself. It does get lonely when you do it by yourself, but also there's so much less stress when you have a partner that you can rely on, right? Ingrid is a deal magnet. So I don't have to necessarily look for deals all the time. Doesn't mean deals don't come to me, right? Ingrid is a magnet for finding PML. Doesn't mean I don't bring PML to the table, right? But those are things that I know I can rely on Ingrid for at all times. I've been involved heavily with the project management, the design, making sure we get to the finish line. And then your incredible husband, Mark Hernandez, lists the properties. And he also joins me and he's taking on more of the project management role now too.
Yeah.
Because we want it to look like something he's proud to be listing on the marketplace, which is so awesome. So it makes this really fluid, awesome partnership.
And then cool. Angel, your amazing wife.
Oh, yes.
She's like the linchpin of our bookkeeping. So she will, where is that $1.55 receipt?
Yeah.
We need it.
I need HUDs right now.
Absolutely. No, I love it because you need somebody like that who's going to be organized and keep your bookkeeping easy. Like one of the things that like, I know this sounds goofy, but I remember when I first met the Hunts, they're like, yeah, we filed our IRS income taxes in January. Duh. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Is it even available
I want
for
that
you
return. Because we always get a kickback from the government. They always say,
No.
hey, here's your taxes back.
But honestly, the reason you're able to function that way is because you prioritize it as a part of how you guys work.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's talk about that real quick, because when you're going to do something like fixing and flipping, and we talked about the dating period and seeing if like will people you attract like be the people you want to work with, like go check out Marlon's podcast of what was his Into the Mind?
Yep.
Into the
Into the Mind.
The hunts were on there. We had already started working on, like, we already did a flip, whatever. And I knew that I liked them. Like, they were good folks. Me and my husband were like, yeah, I really like the hunts. Now we call it like the H team because our name starts with an H.
Yeah.
But in that interview, we literally got to know more about how you guys think.
Oh.
And I was super attracted to how you guys function as a couple. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, let's save people from divorce. Like, if you guys know how they function together, you're like, this is a real team.
Oh,
and so
thank you.
I loved it.
That's so kind.
Yeah, go check that out, because that podcast
Please,
was so
yeah.
good.
Oh, it's it's one of my favorite podcasts that we've actually done, because Marlon is so good about asking questions, and the questions that he asks and how he digs deeper it's so good, because he picks up on the nuances of your mindset.
Yeah.
And how are you guys so synced up? Like, he immediately kind of picked up on that.
Hey, Mind Over Matter Mastermind. Marlon runs it. Yeah.
But yeah, he just picked up on like, hey, you guys are really synced up. Like, can we talk about that? Like, let's not talk about real estate. Like, this is more interesting now at this point. Like, 100%. How are you guys like reading each other's thoughts almost? And yeah, I highly recommend it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Landon. I love that you picked up on our new studio.
Thanks, Landon.
That's just a natural progression of working together. It just made sense for us to be in the same studio.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sick of sitting in a random room in my house with my phone. So we were like, now that we have an office space, let's do something cool.
Yeah.
Have something to be proud of.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. So people out there, if they're getting started in real estate investing, there's different opportunities for active income, and it all really just depends on what their resource pool looks like, right? So you have wholesaling, you have lending, and then you have fixing and flipping. Like, those are the three obvious active incomes. So we got started with active fixing and flipping income because for me, I just didn't want to always be on that wholesale hamster wheel. How about you?
1,000%.
Yeah.
No, I always push everybody. There's so many reasons to get into fix and flipping. First and foremost, there's more risk with fixing and flipping, and that's okay. We can talk about that. But it's easier in the sense of there's wholesalers all over the place looking for deals every single day. So if you're a wholesaler, right, you're competing with all of those wholesalers, whereas there's a smaller population of fix and flippers because it takes more work, it's more time, there's more risk involved. But in terms of finding the deals, it can be a little bit easier because you can hone in on a few really solid relationships and be a consistent buyer for somebody. So that way, when you're like, I'm ready for the next project, it's all you got to do is make a few posts and reach out to a few people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And beyond that, it's also a great content. I mean, you guys eat that stuff up.
Yeah,
You're
HGTV stuff all day.
Yeah,
right.
Like, I just changed the carpet. How's that exciting is that? But yeah, no, for sure. And it's a story. Just like any real estate transaction, everything has its own like thumbprint to it or fingerprint. So that unique story that comes from those scenarios, it's always fun to tell.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other side to this too is I think most of us that get into real estate, the idea for us is, okay, I got to make this active income, but ultimately I want to have a rental portfolio because I need to build long-term wealth. And if you are not fixing and flipping, you are holding yourself back so freaking drastically. Most of the houses that I currently hold all ended up being a BRRRR strategy, which is when you buy it, you renovate it, you rent it out, you refinance it, and then you repeat the process. So on all those deals, I was able to get all of my money back out. And that's because I was finding these heavily distressed properties, fixing them up, slapping a tenant in there, and then refinancing those, which is so awesome. So now I have these huge equity spreads. My whole portfolio as a whole, I just did the math on this last night, actually, because I was curious.
Okay, of course.
Is at 63% LTV.
Wow.
Meaning that I have only 63% debt across the entire portfolio that I'm currently holding. And that gives you a lot more leverage. It gives you deeper deals. It gives you the ability to cash flow a little bit better too. So I think you're holding yourself back if you're not getting into the fix and flip game.
Yeah.
And then as you continue to grow that knowledge base, your opportunities of what you see available to you on a property, it's crazy. It's crazy. I have one in Mesa right now that just finished up. You've been there. That we converted from a single family home to a triplex. Had I never had the experience fixing and flipping, I would have never taken something like that on. I would have never had the patience to take something like that on. It would have freaked me out too much.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're out there and you're not sure how you want to get started, or you have gotten started, let us know. Let us know how you've gotten started. How are you preparing active income? One of the huge reasons I got started in fixing and flipping is because I finally decided to sit down and actually do the math on buying properties and cash flowing them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And because I recall starting the mentorship in SubTo and thinking, I just need 10 properties to cash flow $200 to $300 each. And that's enough for me to at least hold on to that, move on to the next great thing that's going to bring me income. And that's all I need.
Yes.
And I think
I had the same thought. Wow.
And it's 10. Everybody has
it was
10 in their brain.
Was 10. Once I'm at 10, I'll have X amount of dollars coming in.
I can quit my W-2. It's enough for me to, and I was like, wait, this math ain't mathin'.
No.
Because something always breaks, something always needs updating. Tenants get annoyed with you, whatever it might be. And so it was not as easy peasy lemon squeezy as I was expecting it. So, then when I realized that, I'm like, oh shoot, I need a different way for active income to generate this, how I'm going to pay and feed my family. And then I was like, well, duh, fixing and flipping. That was, for me, was way more natural.
Yeah.
So
here's the other really cool thing with fixing and flipping too. And I know we keep talking about the benefits of fixing and flipping, and we'll get into more of the details of fixing and flipping. But the other cool thing is you can have this be a side hustle all day long. If you build up the right team around you and have the right kind of contractors around you, and you build trust with those individuals, you always have to keep checking in and all those types of things. However, how many hours a week would you say goes into the actual project itself that we have to go to in order to make that money? I would say 10 hours max a week go into that. So that frees up our time to go make money in other areas. And then we can check in with our team that's running the flips, right? Our project manager and the crew members to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. And they keep us updated in what's going on. So that's awesome, because if you're wholesaling, as many of you may know that are into wholesaling, it's a grind. You are cold calling every single day, and you're trying to find the needle in the haystack. But fixing and flipping, it's kind of just having the patience to make sure that you know that those big rips are going to come in, and that they're going to be 2 to 3 months out after you buy property, but you have the opportunity in between that time frame to be working on so many other things too.
Yeah, definitely. And that diversifies your risk too, because I mean, we've had scenarios where we literally we underwrote to what we needed to buy it at, and we bought it really deep to what we thought we were going to sell it at, and we sold it 10,000 over. I'm thinking about that, Dav. It's like, wait a minute, how did we only make 22 grand?
Nearly every property that we've done together actually we've raised it by 10 to 20K. Because the same thing happened at Patterson. Yeah.
Because
we
sell it for
when we get done, we're like, it's too good.
Yeah.
This too good. It looks too good. Yep.
Seriously. And that's something else too, actually. If you're going to get into the fix and flip game, please be like somebody who actually wants to be proud of your end product.
Yes.
We see this a lot where I'm like, what happened here? Who slapped this paint together? And
awful.
And
you leave the next person taking over that property with so many problems if it doesn't come up in the inspections, right? It's not the right thing to do.
No.
You should be proud of what you're putting out there on the marketplace. So quality is a huge aspect, and we see that a lot in fix and flips, that people don't have the quality. We take hits on things because we want the quality to be there, right? We've gotten to the end of projects and we thought we didn't have to change out the windows, but now that everything else is done, I guess we're going to spend $5,000 extra on windows because it only makes sense. I would hate to give somebody a terrible product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so diversifying your income streams, that's why it's helpful. I will say, so you had a W-2, I had a W-2. I knew that I had to in parallel start another side hustle like fixing and flipping so that eventually I could leave my W-2.
Yes.
Is that how you also started?
No, not
Okay.
necessarily. So I had my W-2 and I was trying to find deals and I just was not having success because I am a very one-way focused person. I have a hard time spreading myself around too much. So I either need help when it comes to that, or I just have to stay dialed in and focused on that until I get it figured out. So I left my W-2 job with the intention of going all in on real estate. Luckily for me, my wife has her W-2. She still has her W-2 to this day. So that was our balancing act that we had there. So she was able to cover our bills while I got this up and running. But I was able to go all in then at that point on fixing and flipping. And then I used to go to every project every single day. My first few projects were over an hour away from my house. And I would drive there every day thinking that I was going to make some sort of impact. And you learn real quickly that you are just wasting your time. There's only so much you can control.
The reason I asked for Stephen to explain like his background and how he got started is that all of us are going to have a different threshold and a different impact. For example, in my household, I was the main breadwinner. So for me to just quit and not have a way for my family to get fed would be irresponsible, where Stephen had his wife still be able to provide some of that financial stability. So when you guys watch these gurus on YouTube, watch us on, like, you should question it, like go dig a little deeper. Would love to see your questions also on the commentary, because every scenario is different. So you have to know how to apply it back to how you're living your life. Somebody did have a question for you, Refwo. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. How are you able to cash flow on those borrowers with today's rates? I mean, or do you leave more in the deal? What's happening?
I have not had to leave more in the deal, luckily, on any of these deals. So that's been nice. Now, after they start cash flowing, yes, money goes into the deal because not every single property gets filled right away. Not every property was perfectly fixed up. You still have issues that come up and arise. But I just underwrite these to make sure that I'm getting them as deep as I need to get them in order for that to work. And if that works out for the seller, I always ask the seller first and foremost if what their number is, what they're looking to get out of it. And if it makes sense for me, it makes sense for me.
Yeah.
It's not every single deal. It's difficult, especially right now, to find a bird deal. But that's why you get creative. So earlier in this podcast, I mentioned that I have a property that I am converting to a triplex. That property I got for $150,000 in the state of Arizona, and the area that it's in Mesa. That's ridiculous. Like, that just does not really exist. It was so deep and it needed about, I'd say, anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 worth of work. It was a heavy rehab. Now, if I put all of that in there, the ARV was $500,000. So let's think about that, right? I'd be all in around 250, right? ARV's 500. That's 50% LTV. My cash flow would have been $150 a month for the rental rates in that area. So bringing it back to fix and flipping, right? How did I overcome that? Well, I increased my budget by another, I'd say $50,000 to $60,000 on what I was spending. And I converted the garage. And then there was a warehouse in the back that I converted to another unit. Now that property is going to net cash flow, $3,500 a month.
That's fantastic.
And that comes from just knowing how to fix and flip. And think about how much value I added to that property too. My ARV is no longer 500. My ARV is going to be somewhere between 750 to 800.
Yeah. And you're in essence creating these multifamily properties on your own without actually having to go and find these very expensive multifamilies. They're very expensive right now.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, nothing. I'm like, what do I have to put down? 40% for this to cash flow a little bit?
Yeah.
Heck no, not playing that game. We're not that level yet.
I would say a quick tip. So if you're out there, if you're finding properties, especially in the state of Arizona, so I can't speak for everywhere in the United States, and you have lots that are 7,000 or 8,000 square feet big or higher, and your living quarters, so like the actual single family home, is like around 2,000 square feet or less, that is a primo indication that you might be able to do something like Stephen did.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a bunch of tricks and stuff that we can get into. And it's probably going to be more of a 2-3 part thing. We'll talk about fix and flips a lot because that's a lot of what we do. But there's so many ways around that. So if you can build an ADU or a warehouse hack or anything like that into the back of that backyard, we have a friend that did one. It's 400 square feet. It cost him $55,000 all in to build that 400 square foot unit in the back. And he cash flows $3,000 a month because he just uses it as a short-term rental. That nightly rate is so low that it's never not booked out.
Yeah.
And people love it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And again, this is because we're around the right people doing different things like this, and then they teach us. I'm like,
Yeah.
can I please borrow your plans?
Yes.
I mean, 55 grand, that sounds good to me. Cool.
That's one of the first things I will say too, going into how to get started in fix and flipping is networking with people that are fix and flipping, finding your local real estate meetups, joining communities on Facebook, finding people that are actively doing these things, following them on Instagram, reaching out to them on Instagram, seeing how you can provide value to their life. Most fix and flippers are highly disorganized people. They need help. They could totally use somebody to help them out with checking on a project or whatever it might be. Find a way to give them value because there's so much knowledge and there's so much pain that you don't have to go through. I didn't do this, by the way. I went into my first fix and flip without any experience on construction, hardly knew how to change a light bulb myself, right?
Still doesn't.
And I have exactly. Yeah. You should see the curtain rod behind me. But I had no idea how any of this worked. I didn't know if I was getting ripped off from the contractor. I didn't know how fast the contractor was supposed to move. I didn't know anything about anything when it came to it. Had I had friends and resources within the industry at that time that I had built relationships with, I probably would have done a lot better on that deal than what I actually did.
Yeah, totally. And if you're thinking about getting started, again, listen to that component of what Steven just shared, because it can cost you dearly. I actually had somebody call me in the year 2022, where things like when the rates changed,
I lost a lot of money.
Yeah, people's deals were starting to tank. And I just remember feeling all the stress from a gal in California who went at it by herself, didn't realize she actually bought it too high for what kinds of improvements she needed to make. And then when she was trying to sell it, unfortunately, the money that she borrowed, which was her family and her friends for the rehab portion, she wasn't going to be able to pay it.
Wow.
So she was going to be able to sell the property to take care of the hard money lender, but not take care of her friends and family. And had she connected with someone who could, lead her in the right direction, she shouldn't have bought it at all. And I think I just told you this too. I think we've said no to so many deals because they weren't deep enough. And literally at least 3 of them in the last month, I've noticed they're all in pre-foreclosure because they're in the same scenario.
When there was that risk for us looking at it, we're like, could this work? It could work, but if it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. That is our line that we always say. If it's not a hell yeah, if it's not getting us excited, if we don't want to do 1,000 of these deals that we're looking at right now, then it's a no. Let's not do it. And we go back and we reflect on some of the deals that we've passed up because we say no quite a bit. And we're like, wow, I'm so glad I dodged that bullet.
Same.
I
know. Again, the empath in me though, like, feels so terrible. Like my stomach hurts for them because I remember having one of the guys reach out to me, hey, we could do this together. And I'm like, no, that's not deep enough. He's like, well, I'm going to go do it anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Well, live and learn, y'all. Live and learn.
Yeah.
So have your entities set up correctly, because if you're going to go fail, at least fail in a way where you're not going to spread that pain into like your family's well-being.
Yes.
Because you can foreclose on an I'm not suggesting to do this, but if you do close on an LLC that you have properly structured, this will impact you, but not in the long run.
Yes.
So yeah.
Another thing, if you're looking to get into fix and flipping, there is that risk that you're going to lose money. I've lost money. I lost a lot of money in 2022 when the rates went up. I had deals that were all supposed to be 6-figure spreads. And then they ended up losing me $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 per deal. And I probably had 4 or 5 that were just like that, back to back to back to back. So everything I had made previously, gone.
Yeah.
But what do we do in those situations? You have to keep the train running. You have to learn what mistakes did we make here? How do I pivot in this situation? Because that can take you out of the game. People that lose money, if you're doing just one fix and flip a year and you lose on it, big, $40,000, $50,000, that can take you out of the game. That can wipe you out. You have to keep the volume up as well. Not saying you got to be the biggest flipper in town, but at least keep 2 to 3 projects, I'd say, going at all times if you want to get into fix and flipping, because it's going to mitigate your risk in so many ways. Because if you do take a loss on something, you have 2 more that are going to make up for it, and then you're still going to be profitable and in the green at the end of the day. Yeah,
that is true. I would say in 22, early 23, I think altogether I ended up keeping one of my properties, but I did what was called a cash in refi, not a cash out. I had to put $80,000 into that to hold it. Okay, and then it is cash flowing $1,000 a month right now.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a while. Okay.
It's
80
more than
grand,
good.
right? Anyway. And then the other one, I actually lost around $55,000.
Wow.
So why was I able to incorporate all of those losses into my books was because I didn't stop. By the way, not that I was an active wholesaler, I still wholesale.
Mhm.
So I was still, catching good rips from that. So making money from that. So I was able to help myself come out of it.
Mhm.
So one of the greatest, and so simple, one of the greatest advice that Pace has ever said was don't catch one-itis. And the best way for you to deal with the loss is to go make more money.
Absolutely.
I think if you keep on that go make more money
Yes.
train, more money. Money doesn't solve all the problems, but it solves like 95% of them.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And find ways that you enjoy to make money as well. I don't love to wholesale. I'd rather fix and flip because there's other things that I would like to be focusing on. I want to grow a property management business. Ingrid and I have our own acquisition business as well that we're growing out, and I want those things to flourish. So I agree with you.
Yeah,
1,000%.
Sure. All right, guys. Well, we are at the half-hour mark or close to it. So if you guys are catching value from this episode on how to get started in fixing and flipping, please make sure that you're sharing this episode. Let your friends and family know, like, hey, come through, watch the live while we're on here still for the next 30 minutes and ask your questions in the commentary. We're happy. We're very, very happy to help. Because, I get folks asking me all the time, like, hey, can I ask you a question or can I pick your brain?
Oh,
this is
love it.
Picking brain hour. So let's do
yes.
it.
Yeah. We
sure.
fill our schedules. We pack our schedules. So don't hit us up saying, hey, can I take you out to coffee? Ask us here. Come here. Join us on the live.
Yeah.
Let us bring you up on the screen.
Thank you for being here with us. I appreciate that.
Thanks, MK.
And MK is happy to be here with us.
Oh, awesome.
All right. So just to recap the first half hour is, hey, get in the right groups, have the right mindset, understand your numbers. So what's going to get you from an active income perspective? Because what we said was like you had your wife to help you. I didn't. So I kind of had to do it in parallel. So understand your financial landscape so that you know what you need in order to transition into something like this full time. But while you're building it, right? And so then now what would be the next step? What do you think?
I would say next step wise, so you get involved in the community, you start finding contractors, you start finding deals, start understanding what it's going to take to actually fix and flip this.
Big U.
Yes. Understand what it's going to take. I'll tell you from my experience what I did wrong. I made all the properties exactly how I wanted them to look. And they were stunning.
Beautiful
properties.
We listed a couple of those. So yeah.
They were beautiful. I lost money on all of those.
Not because of us.
No. And it's because there was only so far you can take it in that marketplace. If you're looking at a neighborhood and you don't see a single comp that goes over $500,000, but you think you're going to be the one in this market right now that's going to get over $500,000, think again. Bring down the expectations, be realistic with yourself. You'd rather be conservative and expect that you're not going to get the highest comp. I don't even take the highest comp into consideration. No. So be conservative with your numbers in that sense and look at what everything else it looks like that's selling within the neighborhood. Don't make it the way that you want to live in it because you're not going to be the one living in it. Make it to what the standard of that actual neighborhood is. I have really brought it back. So now my new mindset on this is what's the least amount I can do without being cheap?
Yeah.
Right. How can I make sure I'm putting out the right product and what's the least amount I can do without being cheap? So that way it at least fits the needs of what this neighborhood wants. And I'm giving a solid product out into the marketplace.
Yeah. You still want to be proud of it, but you want to make sure that the budget is reasonable.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it's business. So what's the number one rule of business?
Tell us, Ingrid.
Stay profitable.
You never lose money by taking a profit, guys. Ingrid sold a house, what was it, like 2 months ago, Rimrock, right? And she's like, oh, I only made, because it sat on the market for a while. This happens with fix and flips, right? And she's like, we only netted like $2,500, I think, right?
Yeah,
something like that. And I was like, you never lose money by taking a profit. That's a hell of a lot better than losing $55,000, right? So
absolutely. Yeah. And it was a good lesson learned where know your buy box. So what you heard Steven say is, now coming into the second half, underwrite. So understand underwriting. Underwriting is not just math, but understanding the level of fixing and flipping and improvements that you want to make.
Yes.
And then and then second to that, like understand like oh, I lost my train of thought of that.
That's okay. I'll go on to the improvements. There are different things you can get. So here's the cool thing, right? When you network, step number one, with people that are within the industry, there's a lot of people that get really good deals on a lot of things. And they are happy to usually share those opportunities with you when you are building those relationships and you're adding value to their life as well. So we have a few friends that have hookups and GC licenses hooked up to their accounts at certain material stores, right? So we get our laminate flooring that we put into flips for $1.49 a square foot. You cannot get carpet for $1.49 a square foot. And this stuff looks nice. It looks really good. We just put it into a flip. The other thing is, do you need to go above a Home Depot cabinet quality? So knowing your marketplace, knowing the price point that you're buying at, Home Depot cabinets are typically going to be the fastest to get, and they're going to be the least expensive to get as well. And they're already pre-assembled. Assembly in Arizona with the crews that I've worked with about 5 different crews, typically is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. Then install is usually another $1,000. So if I'm able to get pre-assembled, and it's already cheaper to buy those cabinets than I'm getting them elsewhere.
2/3. Boom.
That's awesome. Boom. Yeah. Right. But then if I wanted higher end cabinet, having friends within the industry that can help you get good deals on those as well is huge. So most of the time I can just lean on friends for our tile, for our floors, for our cabinets, for our countertops, which is great.
And we will be working on dropping a list out to you so that if you want to get started and you want to find a place where like the materials are reasonably priced and you want to be able to understand like where you can buy them, we're going to have that available for you. Probably the end of this week?
I would say the end of this week. Yeah.
Yeah. So that way you guys can go in there, start seeing what it looks like touch and feel, see what that looks like.
Yep.
One of the things I did when I used to underwrite is that I used to pretend that I bought something I saw, like get on everybody's wholesalers list, like have people send you deals. And I would take a property and say, okay, I bought it for this. And now I see it, either it's on market or just closed. And I'll use that number as the end game. Be like, what would they have made? And sometimes I could see they didn't make anything or they lost. But that's really great practice. One, to rationalize why you should be saying no more often. But two, to also get you practicing with math.
Yes.
So Stephen, are we going to give out your fix and flip calculator?
I would love to give out the fix and flip calculator. I would say we'll have that available too by the end of the week, because I want to record a Loom video so that everybody knows how to use the fix and flip calculator, so you don't mess it up, so you don't delete all the fields. You'll have to make a copy of it, but it can be confusing because we put a lot of different nuances in there. We have the cost of the hard money. We have legitimately just about every single detail in there, so you can analyze a deal quickly. It takes us 5 minutes or less to analyze a deal. Doing it that way, and it gives us the ability to look at it from the perspective of if this is a full gut or is this just going to be a cosmetic rehab, something easy.
So I'm going to give you guys a rule though. When you get this calculator, you are not allowed to buy your first fix and flip until you have underwritten at least 30 deals.
Yes.
And the way that I used to do it, because remember I had a W-2, I was trying to start a business, whatever. Every day I would underwrite at least one pretend deal. Okay. It was a pretend deal a day so that I could get comfortable with the language, because like the vocabulary you use when you're underwriting, along with what numbers. I would actually ask friends and family that I knew were in fixing and flipping, or I would contact folks I know, like, hey, how much do you guys charge? You know, you can even say commercially, like on like, what does it cost to do, you know, price per square foot on labor, like paint is a really great one. So that way you can get accustomed to what do things cost. And what do you say right now is the like the average cost per square foot on a normal run-of-the-mill fix and flip?
So it depends. So most fix and flips that we end up taking on end up being a relatively, I'm not going to say down to the studs, but relatively a gut job, right? You're getting almost all new everything for the most part. So I would say anywhere from $55 to $60 a square foot is a good way to do that. That's going to get you a full gut for the most part with some light exterior work and some very light landscaping. So if your landscaping looks like crap, you need to call landscapers and figure out what that budget looks like, because landscaping costs money, a lot of money. I just had a landscape job. It was all rocking. It was a large lot, right? But for the cleanup and just the rock itself and a little bit of pavers, It was $12,000 for that.
Ninth Ave?
This is not Ninth Ave. Ninth Ave was $5,000.
Okay,
which was actually a good price.
Yeah.
Yes, this is for that one that I'm converting to a triplex.
Oh,
And I just tried to
Oh,
keep it as basic as possible. But
that
Ninth
lot
Ave
is huge,
massive.
though. Yeah, so 12 grand kind of feels like a good price too, though.
It does, but when you're not expecting it, right?
Oh yeah,
it can. You're
So
like, wait, I'm
it's-
doing just a little bit of stuff. Like I'm not
Yeah.
doing too much. I'm not making this look beautiful. I didn't
Mhm.
add extra plants. Like I didn't give it anything
Mhm.
special. And 12
Mhm.
grand, crazy.
Yeah.
We did the same thing with Ninth Ave. It was a much smaller lot, but that was $5,000 just for
Yeah.
the rocks because
Yeah.
you have to buy the rock and then you have the labor that goes along with it. And this isn't easy work,
No.
right?
Mm-mm.
So I would say $60, $55 to $60 a square foot is going to get you that full gut with the light exterior job there. If it's above that, if it's truly like all new, absolutely everything in the exterior needs a whole overhaul too, you definitely should be talking with your GCs and
Yeah.
you should have a strong plan of what everything's going to look like because
Yeah.
you're going to come up to a lot of costs that you're not aware are going to come up, right? We have houses where you open up a wall and you realize that half the house is rotted out and you're like, dang,
Yeah.
I did not budget for this one.
No. Yeah, there's some things that are just unpredictable, and most GCs do not include landscaping. So you should know that up front, whether or not they're going to help you obtain those types of
Yep.
bids, or if you're on your own.
Another great point. Most GCs, you said, are not going to do landscaping. What else are GCs not usually going to include in their bids? The cost of the materials. They're usually never going to include how much the tile is going to cost, how much the flooring is going to cost, how much the cabinets are going to cost. So a lot of times they'll put the materials on you. So they go, hey, it's going to be $80,000 for this project. And then all of a sudden you start getting phone calls from Home Depot and Lowe's for phone sales. Hey, Pierre is here in order to do a phone sale. It's $5,000. He's getting some cabinets. Well, hold on. I didn't put this into the budget. I thought I was going to make $30,000 or $40,000 on this deal. All of a sudden, all that money went to your materials.
Yep.
So make sure you are listing out every single thing material wise. Understand clearly with your GC, what are they responsible for?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think really ties into the next side of this is having such clear communication, as clear as it can be, with your contractors, with your GC, or whoever will be running that project, because that's where everything can get derailed very quickly. And we've both experienced that.
Yeah, totally. 100%. I had a GC steal 30 grand from me.
Oh my gosh.
So that cash in refi one,
How did that happen?
it would have been 50 grand, but instead it was
How did
80
that
grand.
happen? How'd they steal that money?
Well, again, extreme ownership. Everything is my fault, right? So how's everything my fault? Well, everything is my fault, especially in that scenario where we had $30,000 stolen, was because I decided to go and do fixing and flipping by myself with no other, like not really having had a by the way, the very first one we did, I did do it by myself, like with my husband and our partner, cousin David. And that turned out fine. But when I think about it and I peel back the onion, I go, actually, we weren't by ourselves. Our listing agent was so amazing and had all the resources from us. And he had flipped before that I didn't realize how much we were leveraging his own experience and resources. So we really didn't go at it by ourselves. Like this agent, and plus it was a super cosmetic flip. So it was roof, a little bit of flooring, and some really tough cleanup. Like you can't get that wrong. Come on now. So, but this one was a full gut. Yeah. And I shouldn't have done a full gut all by myself, not having had.
It must have been right down the street from you too, right?
And it was in Tucson.
Oh, how far is that?
Only 2 hours away from me.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, our fault. So he was making, or supposedly making, improvements on the property, supposedly pulling permits with the city, supposedly, doing things that he said he was doing. And then when we eventually understood that he was keeping it just below under the veil, like we're like terrible concrete work, I started questioning things. I was like, this seems awful. Like how?
Yeah, I don't do construction, but this looks wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
No, 100%.
That's like when you can notice it.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know anything about construction. You're like, why are these two concretes different colors?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why does this one have a different texture than this one? Like, I'm so confused.
And it wasn't even level. Like there was some ridges, and I was like, what the heck? Like, I don't understand.
You'll know when you have bad contractors too, that you'll start walking in the projects and you're like, why does this feel so shoddy? Like, why does this feel so terrible? Yeah. I've gone into some projects where we're going to put a beam in, and I'll come in and it's like 4 or 5 2x4s strapped together with like wire up there instead of actually having a beam. And I'm like, that there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way this is how it's supposed to be done. Like the city would eat us alive for something like this.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. So anyways, we had to fire him. And at that point we had already spent 30 grand.
Mm.
And luckily we ended up getting a GC partner this time, somebody with lots of experience. And he essentially rescued the project. So now we're part owners with them on that property. But that was way better than just continuing to throw money out the window.
Absolutely.
So,
and sometimes you have to pivot. You
Yep.
know, I've fired GCs and contractors on the job because timeframes aren't being met, the costs aren't being communicated clearly.
Yeah.
And you have to pivot, and sometimes you will lose money. That's part of the risk of it. That's why you keep the ball rolling. That's why you keep getting more and more fix and flips. Each fix and flip adds to your experience.
Yeah.
Right. And as you continue to build those relationships with your crews that you're working with, and you start to build that trust up, it becomes more and more clear, and it becomes easier and easier and easier, where it does feel like you almost have a hands-off experience on a lot of things. And you're just getting updates on, hey, we didn't expect this to come up. Hey, could you order these materials? Hey, could you? And it becomes this thing where you can do it from afar almost. You can almost virtually flip a house
if you have the
in
right
that
partners.
way. Correct.
So I want to bring it back though, because I get a lot of questions of like, and I would love for you guys to comment on why you are fixing and flipping or why you're avoiding fixing and flipping. I would love to know what you guys think out there. But many folks don't know how to do the lending piece, especially if they've never had an experience. So this is where you haven't gotten started before me worked, because my first like 3 or 4 flips, I never used hard money.
Really?
I only used private money lending. That was like
even the one that we did. Yeah.
I did. I had. I have.
That's
I still
right.
have.
He funded our whole deal. Our first deal we did together.
Yes,
Rehab
he did.
and
We
purchase.
never had to do hard money. So to do my very first experience with hard money was when I was doing more flips with Steven. And that was really like late last year.
Yeah.
Because all the other flips I've done, like we were self-funding.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm currently doing that, and I didn't mean to do that. I had a couple projects that came up. I just brought up half the house was rotted out. That's a project I'm currently doing. So we do run into that once in a while where we can either go raise more money, or we can say, hey, we'll just fund it ourselves. Luckily for us, we were in a financial position to fund it ourselves, but it makes things tight, and you're risking all of your money at that point in time, right? So it's not a good use of your capital. You should be using your money to lend to other fix and flippers or to other people that are buying property, so you can grow your money that you're holding on to compared to using it on your own projects. It's not the highest and best use for your projects.
By the way, a lender, and I won't say who because I don't think I'm allowed to share, let me know that for hard money lending, 1 in 10 projects don't work out.
Wow.
I didn't know it was that high.
Wow.
That's 10%.
It makes sense why they're getting so much more strict though too.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen a lot of cracking down since 2022.
Yeah.
We have a lender, right, that came to us and had 20 to 30, I forget, he didn't give us the full amount actually. I know there's a ton of them, defaulted by one person because they took on way too many projects and everything fell through. The rates went up. They're all remodeled, but they can't sell. And now they're at above market rate because we had that pullback in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Craziness.
So folks reach out and they're like, how do I go get a hard money loan though? Because I don't have friends in high places like Ingryd did or Steven did. So how do they get started with a hard money lending loan?
I would always reach out to multiple hard money lenders. We have a hard money lender that we can recommend to you, and they do it. And I believe they do it in like 48 states. I think Alaska and what's the other one that most people don't do?
New York,
Alaska, New York. I think those are the only two that they don't lend to. But they're really great. The thing with this company is that as you do more and more fix and flips and more projects with them, they are going to give you better and better rates, lower down payments, covering more of the renovation budget, things like that. So we can share those contacts with you. But if you're looking to get into something right away as well, I would always vet everybody, see who's going to work the best for you. I love our lender because they have a portal. They make it easy. They handle almost everything for us now. So if I submit a property to them, they contact the insurance company now. They contact title. They run almost everything. And they basically call me to say, when can you show up to sign? We got that email today. What state are you in? What account are we giving the money to? And when can you sign?
Yeah.
Right. And that's really awesome when you build those relationships. There are companies out there that will cover 100% of the cost. I don't know what their actual rates look like. There's companies that do.
There's always a trade-off.
There's always something, right? They will get you in one way or another.
But if you need a hard money loan, go check us out on Instagram. So my name is written right there in the screen. Ingryd_Hernandez is my Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
Stephen Hunt. No spaces, no underscores, just my first and last name together.
So DM us, put HML in the DM. By the way, we don't have no automation. So we will be going in there on our own, and we will give you guys contacts to call for hard money lender if you need some fix and flip support. So let us know. We're happy to connect you. The one thing I was hoping you said, but maybe we didn't go that route, I had never done hard money loans before. So even though I had 3 or 4 flips under my belt by the time you and I reconnected to do more flips, the way that I got a hard money lender loan is by squatting up with Steven.
What's up?
So I got to leverage his experience with this lender to get approved. Now, it didn't mean that I didn't have anything that they were looking at. No, your bankability matters.
Huge.
So
your experience matters. And the cool thing about experience is that it doesn't matter who had the more experience. They're going to combine our experience together, and they're giving us a loan based off of us together.
Correct.
Which is great. That goes for how much cash you have in the bank. That goes for your credit scores. There's so many times where I have too much stuff out on a credit card or something happens, right? I'm in this right now. My credit score went from like a 780 from a certain situation that I got into to like a 630. And that's the lowest it's ever been. And I was like, crap, this sucks. This sucks. So they go, hey, we're just going to use your wife as the credit. It's okay. We're fine. That works out.
Yeah.
And they'll do that in partnerships as well. So they would have done that with Ingryd and said, hey, we're just going to use Ingryd's credit this time around because hers is still in the very high 7s.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome to have partners in that sense to leverage the experience. And it's not that you wouldn't have gotten that loan, right? You just would have had to give 20% down. You would have had higher points, higher monthly interest rate. It just would have been a little bit less enticing for you to do it that way. But with us partnered up together, they look at all of our experience all together and they go, cool, you guys can get the top tier, the lowest amount of points, the lowest interest rate, the best of the best. And they'll start to make exceptions for you too.
Yeah.
Right. They will start making exceptions. They'll go back to the appraisers and be like, no, you guys got this wrong. Like we do that a lot.
Yeah. Well, appraisers are a whole different bag of like, what are you talking about? This isn't even a comp. So yeah, that's a whole thing. But yeah, you should be squatting up. You should be leveraging your friends and family or, you know, acquaintances that are fixing and flipping and seeing how you can squat up and understand what season you're in. Are you in the season of earning or are you in the season of learning? I remember when I became an agent, like my first 4 deals, like the most I made was like 40 or 30% of my splits. I can't even tell you how much money I made. It was barely anything. But because I was in a season of learning where my mentor, he took on like the biggest cut of my commissions. And I would say it's the same thing when you're starting anything new where it's income generating, like fixing and flipping, or if you're wholesaling and you're joining a team, that's the cost of learning. It's like like, you know, going to university, I went to ASU, go Devils.
Hey,
that money isn't paying me much, but I sure dang paid it. Yeah. So like I would rather much learn on the job or learn on a deal with a partner.
Oh yeah. 2022. I forget how much it was specifically that I did lose from some of those. That was me learning.
That was your cost.
That's what I had to pay to get educated in the space, right?
Still cheaper than going to ASU. Yeah.
But I probably could have avoided a lot of that pain and a lot of that money being lost had I partnered up with somebody and just would have split the profits. And they could have said, hey, now's not the time to be buying in Sun City West. Hey, now's not the time to be doing X, Y, and Z. Right. A lot of us got caught. The most experienced of people got caught.
That's why I felt better.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what the heck? Like I underwrote this so well. Like why would I have gotten it so wrong? And then you realize there's sometimes economic events that are just going to be beyond
out of your control. We didn't think the points like they were like, hey, we're going to raise rates.
Unprecedented.
I was like, they'll raise them. What? That was like, it felt like every day and it was silence. Do you remember that? It was like silence for weeks. Like you could hear a pin drop in the marketplace. I was like, what is going on? Yeah. What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
One of the things that made me feel a lot better is Zach Keeps, who's a massive investor out here locally and nationally, honestly, as an individual investor. He is awesome.
Precious.
He had a flip selling in the same neighborhood I had a flip selling. And he goes, finally sold this flip. It was a $50,000 loss. You got to man up and move on. And I took a $40,000 loss on that property. And I was like, oh gosh, thank goodness. Okay. I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
yeah.
like, it didn't make it hurt less in the sense of how much money we lost, but also it's like, oh,
No,
cool.
but it
Things
does
happen.
it reconciles your mindset. I
Yes.
struggled losing and thinking like, am I even supposed to be doing this? Have I gone the wrong direction?
Right.
And and I think of things now. It's like, man, I think of real estate every single day. Real
Yeah.
estate or like creating business,
Yeah.
processes and like how.
Or your husband. Yep. Those are the only three things you talk about.
Yeah. Business, real estate, or my hot husband, for
Yes.
sure. I agree. Yes. So it is what it is. And so like I thank God. Actually, he was a huge reason why I was able to move on. Like he was so kind to me during that experience and was like, we should both be shouldering this burden.
Totally.
And so, talk about your business partner, your husband or your wife, whoever you choose, who's going to be your forever spouse. That is going to be a huge difference maker for you.
And if it's not your spouse or somebody like that, and it is somebody else, because I've lost money with other partners that are not my spouse. What's their mindset around money? Mm-hmm. Do they have the funds to, if they lost something, is it going to take them down completely? The people that I lost money with, we were so amicable about it. We all were in pain. It all hurt for everybody. But at the end of the day, like, we were all good, and we're still such good friends. We don't do real estate together, but we are really good friends, and we see them almost every single weekend now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, let us know what other questions we could answer for you. This is very much like the getting started in fixing and flipping. And you realize like that even the action taking of putting a deal under contract that you're going to go after, there's so much more before it. And we're not giving you all of this information to like make you pause or deter you from fixing and flipping, but it's important for you to understand all the things that come before it. So you're not going into it blind.
That you're getting the prep ready. You know what I mean? Once the project's going, you're going to run into issues and things, but you're already in it. You already got it going. Like, you're going to be forced to pivot. You're going to be forced to learn. You're going to be forced to do these things. Yeah. The hardest part of all of that is taking the action to actually go buy your first fix and flip and just start the process. That was for me, at least. Yeah. 100%. I thought, and I was reading real estate books for like 4 years before I bought my first deal. Like, I was just constantly consuming. And I was like, when am I going to do this? Yeah. I made a bet with my friend, and he was like, I'm going to do real estate. And I was like, I'm going to do real estate. We made a bet, like, whoever does real estate first has to take us out to a really nice dinner. I got into it first. However, we had that bet going for like 2.5 years. Really? And I'm like, neither of us are taking action. Like, why can't either of us just go do it? You know? That's so interesting. Summer of 2020 was, because, we were all locked up and whatnot. When we were improving our house, I started listening to Bigger Pockets because I was like, yo, they're laying people off at my job. Like, what do I need to know? I was already a real estate agent, but when you're an agent, you're like in the service industry. You're not actually in real estate. You're helping other people who are actually in real estate. Yeah, I said it. Sorry, that's mean, right? So that summer is when I started learning about investing, and I was like, what's happening here? Like, I had tried learning before, but it was like a good old boys sort of network that I was around. So it was really hard to get more information, even though I had actually some good friends who, not good friends, but good acquaintances, I'll call them, who just never wanted to share any extra info. So that summer I got with Bigger Pockets. It wasn't enough information with their podcast though. And then YouTube, funny enough, I actually found Jerry Norton first. Oh, wow. And then Jerry Norton, he's fantastic. He's amazing. And then Jerry Norton led me to Pace. And then from Pace, I joined. So it took me 6 months or 7 to join a mentorship, and then another 8 months to actually get my first deal under contract. If I'm like talking about like the beginning to end timeline. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, years. Yeah. 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 I mean, it's I didn't get my license or anything like that either. So I was so uninvolved. A little less than 1.5 years. Yeah. Would you agree? Here's my take on it, is that you will never feel like you have enough information before you get started. At some point, you got to rip the Band-Aid off and say, I'm going to do it. Yes. That was it for me, at least. I was like, when that first deal that I was like, I think this is it. I think this is the one. I really considered wholesaling that, even though I had no idea how wholesaling worked at the time either. But I was like, oh my gosh, like I just got to do it. I got to be okay with there's a chance I could lose money on this because I don't have the experience, and I'm just going to do it. You can avoid that by getting partners. However, at some point you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and say, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. I think one thing we should do for the audience, and let us know if you want to hear about this, is how do we set up their two first entities so that going forward, if they lose, they don't lose at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way that we have our entities set up is that we have, first and foremost, we have a trust. And that trust owns a holding company, and it's an active holding company. There's a difference between active income and passive income. Active income could be your W-2. It can be the fix and flips, wholesales. You have a HVAC business, wherever the money's coming in, but you work to get that money. That is active income. Passive income is real estate, right? When you have a rental. So rental property pays you every single month, or you're lending out money and that's paying you every single month. You're not working for that money. That money is working for you. That's technically passive. So we have a holding company for active income. And then underneath that holding company, we have LLCs that we do the fix and flips through. So if we had to, you could bankrupt one of those LLCs, and it's not going to ruin everything because it's going to trickle its way back up to the different companies.
And I would say you don't even have to have the trust piece. Now, what he just explained to you is the most ideal scenario. But if you have a holding LLC, whether or not you're ready to declare it be the active or the non-active holding LLC, but I would say the first two entities to start with is your holding LLC and your active LLC that'll be below it. That's it. Like, just start with those two things. That's like what, $600-700 to have those two things done. Make sure that when you're setting them up, you're using a registered agent, so that way you shouldn't be filing paperwork. You shouldn't be the one whose information showing up. Make sure it's anonymized so that you're better
Anonymized. I like that.
Yeah.
Anonymity.
So that you're better managing like how easily people can find you. Like my holding LLC is opened in Wyoming. How about yours?
Mine's the same way. Okay. Yeah, because there's no corporate tax in Wyoming.
So there's Wyoming, Delaware, or Nevada who can help. You should be setting that holding company under, and then your active LLC will likely have to have what we call Nexus. And so Nexus for us is here in Arizona. This is where we actively do business.
Yes. Yep. Wherever you're doing the business is where you want to have those LLCs. So even if you're doing flips in other states, and because I have friends that do that, they do virtual flipping, and that might be a little bit more advanced. But they do the LLCs in those specific states. So they're doing flips here and in Arizona and Ohio, right? So they'll have an LLC here and in Ohio.
I actually have one LLC that ended up doing business here and Texas. So it's registered in both.
Oh, wow.
And I learned like you have to register as a foreign entity. I'm like, foreign? So weird. Wow. It's all the United States of America, but they're like, nope, it's foreign to the state of Texas.
Or like our own countries.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, we are not lawyers. We have amazing folks that we can bring on board. If there's any guests that you would like for us to kind of reach out to and have them on, we will definitely reach out. Let us know.
Yeah.
But this is how we've done it. How you choose to do it, totally on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to set up LLCs on my own. I pay a little bit extra to have somebody else do it now. They're looking over everything. Always double check their work. It's just the way it goes for anything you do in real estate. Double check title, double check the people setting up your entities, double check the contractors, double check work. But knowing that somebody else is setting it up is going to give you the anonymity. Yeah. That's the biggest piece to it right there, because you don't want, especially as you build out a rental portfolio, if somebody slips and falls and they want to sue you, you don't want them coming through and trying to knock out every single entity that you own and take every dime that you have. You want them to just target that one thing only, and that way you squash it.
That's right. And we got Rosie in the comments. She's looking forward to learning more
what's
about
up,
the corporate
Rosie?
Structure, so we're excited. Well, if you guys got a lot of value from this episode, please make sure you're liking and you're subscribing. My channel, Ingryd Hernandez on YouTube, or Steven Hunt.
Steven Hunt, STEVEN HUNT.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
And if you want to communicate with us, reach out to us on Instagram, slide into those DMs. We're very active on our Instagram group. We also have a channel that you can subscribe to called Ingryd and Steven's Insights. So if you guys want to subscribe in there, we'll share extra content. We'll remind you when we have things like this that we're going live. And then you can personally communicate to us in more of a group-like setting.
Yeah, we'll do some more behind the scenes. You'll get to meet our project manager, people that are helping us truly scale out our operation and really giving more of our time back to ourselves so that we can go take on other things.
Yeah.
Other ventures.
And ways maybe that even you can do deals with us. So
Yeah.
we'll continue to elaborate that. Give us the topics you'd love to hear about. And again, we'll catch you next week, Wednesday at what time, Stephen?
1 o'clock Pacific time, Arizona time.
Yeah. We'll say Arizona because sometimes we're Pacific,
Sometimes we're mountain. Yep.
And not because we changed it, because we're still being ruled by ridiculous rules.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you joining us and taking the time to be here with us. We hope to continue to bring you value, and we appreciate you. Catch you next week.
See you guys.